Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session of Connected Talks. So today we have Mr. John Thomas, who's an alumni of our college as a guest. So we are glad to have you today. So Mr. John Thomas is a seasoned technology leader and has almost 20 years of experience in consumer and enterprise domains, building and running successful engineering organizations. Currently, Mr. John is a director of engineering at Google Nest, where he leads the app organization. Prior to this, he spent 3 years in Google Cloud leading the Workspace Enterprise Platform, which included products like Workspace Essentials and Cloud Identity. Prior to that, he was a director of engineering at Uber, where he built and led Uber's pricing fares and incentive systems. Prior to Uber, he spent a decade running engineering teams at Google, including YouTube, AdWords and Checkout. Mr. John has a master's in computer science from the University of Texas at Austin and a bachelor's in computer engineering. John is also an active angel investor and advisor in a number of startups like DoorDash, HipCamp, Sandbox VR, and he's an advisory board member of Foothills College Computer Science Department. What skills do you think students need to brush upon other than coding in the software field? And what programming languages would you expect a student to know while hiring them?
Well, first of all, thanks for the introduction, Anika, and hello to everyone from Father Agnel's. I've found that the basics of computer science have been some of the most useful skills, whether it's during interviewing or even on the job. So everything from, operating systems to networking to algorithms, just getting those fundamentals right and really brushing up on them has been super helpful for, everything from hiring to interviewing to actually working on the job. In terms of languages, usually any coding language is fine. I recommend people, whenever they're interviewing with a company, to use a language, a programming language that they are familiar with and that they're using, day to day. So whether it's Java or JavaScript or even C++ or Ruby, anything, it kind of doesn't matter. What's more important is whatever you know, whichever language you're proficient in, you have a good grasp of not just the language and its syntax, but the fundamentals of how it works. And as long as you can do that, you'll be fine. Now, the reason for this is because it doesn't matter what programming language you know. You may be proficient in Java, but you may land up in a job that's all Python, for instance. And that's okay. So beyond just the coding language, what you'll be expected to know is how to learn, how to pick up syntax, where to read, examples from. How do you learn the fundamentals of a new language quickly? And that's why the basics are so important, because you can never predict what language your company is going to use. You can never predict the next technology shift or wave. But the one thing that stays consistent are the fundamentals in computer science. So I know this sounds a bit cliched, but that's actually really important, especially at that stage.
Since you have invested in several startups, sir, what qualities or skills do you expect from such companies before investing in them? And since startups are quite risky, so what advice would you give to the fellow young entrepreneurs out there?
Every investor has got their own investment thesis and domains they go after and frameworks they use to decide where to invest. I'm not that experienced. I'm not by no stretch a successful investor or anything like that. I've just been very excited about being associated with and investing in startups and advising startups. But what I've found in my experience, the most consistent set of qualities in the most successful founders that I've worked with is they know three things really well. Number one, they know their customers. And I mean truly know their customers. They spend time with customers. They understand the customer's pain points. They know what problems the customers face and how the products they're building can solve those problems. Second is they know their numbers and metrics really well, whether it's growth of the business, market share, churn rate of their customers, or even technology trends and knowing the metrics behind what they're building. They're very, very good at that. And the third is they know the market. They know about the competitors, they know about the technology trends, they know about other investments being made in that space. They're just generally aware of the market. So customers, metrics, and market, I found is the mix of what I've seen the most successful founders to have. What I recommend the current generation of founders and people who are probably right now watching this video thinking about doing a startup, you basically need two things. Number one, be curious, and number two, have a growth mind. Being curious means you'll always be ready to challenge the status quo. What exists is not good enough. You'll always seek something new. And that's very helpful, especially when you're doing a startup, because you will be the one looking for innovative solutions. So that's where curiosity helps. So the growth mindset basically means you make mistakes, you analyze what went wrong, you don't dwell on it, you analyze it, and you find ways to improve and you iterate. And why this growth mindset is really important is because no one can predict the success, the outcome of your startup. No one, not the founder, not the VC investing, not even the customers. And because you can't predict what's going to happen next, the best way to succeed is to iterate your way through it. And that means trying something, making mistakes, learning from them, improving, and trying it again. And I have found that as long as you have that blend of curiosity and a growth mindset, you'll be successful.
And could you please tell us some of the biggest challenges you have faced in your life, like regarding your field, in your field or something?
I think the biggest challenges I have faced is learning how to deal with failure. I know that sounds very generic, but you have to think of it this way. Our systems and cultures, whether it's going through a competitive college education system or even working in great companies, you're used to aiming for success. And in many cases, you get it. So you're like, yes, I want to get the highest rank in college or the top marks in an exam. People with access to information will achieve success very early on and repeatedly. And what happens is you don't actually build the muscle to deal with failure when it does happen. And you are going to fail. That's a given for sure. At some point you will. And the question is, what do you do at that point? How do you take a step back and learn from it and sort of pivot? And so I think some of the biggest challenges I faced is early on in my career when I had some of these failures. I was like, wait, I thought I was going to be successful by doing this. What happened? Like, why did that project not work? Because you have to think of it this way. When you look at like the projects we do in college, they're all constructed very well with clean parameters and the perfect conditions. But the real world doesn't work that way. Like I said, it's very unpredictable. And so when you see your first set of failures is actually when you get the biggest lessons. And so I found that, at least very initially in my career, very
So the last question for the interview is, what message would you like to give the students of FCRIT, sir?
First of all, it's awesome to have this format and this forum. So I'm really glad that you all are getting an opportunity to hear from folks who have graduated from college. I think my advice is simple, and that is it's good to be aware of what your colleagues are doing. It's good to be aware of which schools they go to, or what jobs they take, or what startups they join, or even startups they found, etc. There's a fine line between knowing what they're doing and being obsessed with it. Don't be obsessed with what others are doing and the journeys that others are on. Plot your own journey, right? Build your own internal compass. Have your own North Star. And that's actually even harder today than it was when we were in college, because today everyone shares everything online, right? You're on Facebook and Instagram and other places. And so it's pretty easy to get distracted. It's pretty easy to get obsessed with what others are doing. But I can truly say that the best way to plot your career and your path is to be aware but not be obsessed. Like, focus on your own journey. I know it's much easier said than done, but the most successful people that I've seen in my careers have been people who just focused on what's important to them.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. This marks the end of the interview, and thank you so much for giving us your time. I really hope this message reaches many students and motivates them and all. So thank you so much, sir.